Lieutenant-General Elias Mawela has said that the South African Police Service, SAPS, didn't receive any intelligence that the July unrest would happen. On Monday, Mawela gave testimony at the South African Human Rights Commission national investigating hearing into the July unrest. The police commissioner admitted that intelligence gathering was a weakness. Now, in his testimony, Mawela painted the SAPS as overworked and in desperate need of modernization. Joining us now is Mary De Haas, Violence Monitor and Analyst. Good afternoon to you, Mary, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Now, Mary, days after that July unrest, it became abundantly clear, even for the ordinary citizen, that the police or law enforcement authorities were ill prepared to handle that situation. What do we make of, some of the utterances that are being made now at the South African Human Rights Commission? Even the police commissioner or suspended police commissioner coming out to say, that they didn't receive intelligence and they were, not prepared.
Look, I'm not surprised because my own digging around suggested that. But the fact remains that you must remember that the Minister of Police is grounded in this province. He's close to police in this province. It was obvious by the Thursday after the former president was arrested that the soldiers need to come in because the roads were being blocked. The minister should have been approaching the president to deploy the soldiers, even without intelligence. I said this at the time, and I'm not an intelligence operative. It was absolutely clear that the soldiers should have been brought in days before they arrived to guard the roads and the infrastructure. And that rests on the shoulders of the provincial police and the national commission of police, because they get briefings. But as I said, the minister himself, if I can see it, the minister must have seen it. We knew it was reported. The roads were being blocked. And then it's a foregone conclusion that worse will probably happen. So don't overlook that part of it. The other thing is there were a whole lot of other things that happened. One of the most disturbing allegations I heard was that at a particular station, and it's an urban station, and it confirms a lot of kind of anecdotal stuff, but a lot of the police are loyal to a particular party or a particular faction, because the police have been heavily politicized starting in 94 and then by the 2000s had switched in this province from the IFP to the FP. Right. Now, apparently at the one station in which I have had first-hand information, several dozen police said they weren't going to lift a finger because they support you. But to make matters worse, apparently, they also tried to intimidate their colleagues at the station not to take action when the looting was at its height. That's one thing. Now, that's very serious because police take an oath to serve the country, not a political party or faction of a party. Another thing is that there were serious allegations that police at Phoenix were moonlighting for security companies. Then there was the failure to deploy water cannons. That's the logical way to deal with drought. But apparently the water cannons were out of order. Now, that's unforgivable. Public order policing haven't been properly trained because the ministry or the whatever they're called, the civilian secretariat, sat on a report for 5 years about how to train public order policing properly. Then we have the Caspers, the municipal police in Durban, many of whom are loyal to the former suspended mayor of Durban, Mary. The municipal police bought 4 Caspers 3 or 4 years back. There was an outcry about it. It's not the job of the municipal police. They're supposed to deal with bylaws, etc., in terms of the Police Act. How do you justify spending on Caspers? Oh, they say, that's because we back up the police department. Well, 3 of those Caspers were nowhere to be seen. Apparently, they too were out of order. What have they been doing with these Caspers, which are also brand new. But I think the worst, one of the other bad stories, and I'm telling you this now because the Commission must get on with investigating. Not just listen to the very sad testimony of people who are victims, but the police won't admit it, but it is almost certain. Umlazi, which is the biggest former, the township in Durban, in the south of Durban, has 2 police stations. The main one and a smaller one called Biggie Temba. Biggie Temba station was trashed by the looters. It was closed afterwards. But it is virtually certain, I mean, I've asked the police and they won't admit it. It's virtually certain that guns, ammunition, etc. was stolen from that police station. People could hear the sound of gunfire shooting after the looting. And then a couple of weeks later or a month later, 11 people were killed in 2 gang-related activities in that section at Umlazi. People are absolutely sure those were the police guns. Now, that head of the Station Commission was rolled immediately. Station commissioners are tasked with safekeeping guns, making sure the safe is locked, the strong room's locked. They have responsibility.
Mary,
goodness knows how many other stations would crash. We just don't know. As I said, I'm mentioning this because it is, if this inquiry is to have any credibility, then let's get on with questioning, including the minister and the other police departments.
Maybe let me bring the conversation back to what the state of play at the SAPS is. I mean, some of the problems that you are mentioning range from very serious to, things that they should know by now, just in terms of combating crime. So who can shoulder the blame? Is it the leadership team in terms of, just the kind of people that are responsible? I mean, even the former defense minister, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, said at the commission that that the intelligence was also not followed up by SAPS, and I mean, these are worrying things that surely should be controlled right at the top. So what are we then to say about the state of SAPS in this country, if you consider also that we are headed to 16 days of no violence against gender abuse and so forth. We look at the kidnapping numbers that are rising in this country. So where are we at in terms of this service, this force that is meant to keep law and order?
Look, I think it's common knowledge there are serious problems with police. It starts with the minister. I mean, the minister himself controls a team of detectives that investigates political killings in the province. So it's highly irregular for a politician who's a colleague of people who are potential suspects to get a report directly from a man who's not even a detective. He's a former operational man who was in the KwaZulu police. He heads a team. The team takes whatever dockets it wants, and it investigates and reports to the minister. So there are those serious cleavages. I think they're well known between the Commissioner of Police nationally and the minister. Right, that's one. The other thing is, and again, I think it's worth reminding people, crime intelligence in this province, you must also remember with these policing issues that provinces have certain powers which were devolved to them, including the appointment, for example, of a provincial commission. It has to be approved by whichever party is in the majority in the province. And there are other devolution things that take place. Now, if you look at crime intelligence in this problem, we have really serious problems. Some of the crime intelligence are decent, hardworking people. Some of them are incompetent people going right back to the apartheid days. We have former apartheid security police. We even have a convicted drug dealer and his family who are working for crime intelligence in this province. And about 2 or 3 months ago, a report was leaked to the city press and to some independent newspapers in Durban that there was a crime intelligence report handed to the then head of crime intelligence, who was General Jacobs, in, I think, 2 years at least ago, 2 or 3 years ago. That crime intelligence report detailed how former apartheid security policemen were running political hit squads in the province, and that one of the people killed was Sindisa Magagwa, for whose justice Tabiso Zulu strives. Right. Now, instead of that report going from the head of intelligence to the National Commissioner, who's his line manager, it went to the minister. And this is now, I haven't seen the report, it's probably been classified. And apparently the National Commissioner hasn't seen it because there was an article saying he was looking for it. But apparently the minister is alleged to have said, oh, this is very embarrassing, we can't make this public. Now, I mean, how do we know? How do we know these people aren't still doing it in crime intelligence? How do we know they weren't involved in what happened in July? Because we don't know who orchestrated. All I know about July is, from follow-up at the time, that it was exceedingly well planned and coordinated right across the province. And as I said, for all we know, guns may have been stolen elsewhere. We don't know because the police are clamping down. Now, so obviously questions must be asked of the minister, they must be asked of the National Commissioner, but also the whole management of this province, including crime intelligence. I mean, whoever's in charge of crime intelligence now, plus General Jacobs needs to be quizzed about what he did with that report and why it wasn't acted upon. So the whole hierarchy, I mean, I've already written to the parliamentary committee about some of this because, everybody's feeling a bit helpless about peace because we have no control over who the president decides to appoint as a minister. We know there's a struggle going on. The minister wants the commissioner out. We hope that because the police are divided, and I mean, the parliamentary committee have admitted to me themselves, yes, it's not right that the minister is doing this operation, but they must stop him, mustn't they? So I've said to people, you can't sit back and wait for the president to decide who he wants to be minister or remove or replace or put in positions. We've got to do it in community police forums and support good policing.
As we wrap this interview, I mean, you've raised some interesting issues, particularly what is happening in KZN. Now, we know there are currently council meetings around the country following the local government elections. Now, do you think, the security should be tightened, particularly if we have to look at provinces like the Eastern Cape and KZN? I mean, there is a need. This is still within the political arena.
Look, I mean, I am concerned. I mean, my specific purpose is this province. I try to contextualize it. I mean, we know, for example, 2 days ago, the power went off at a crucial time in the election of officials. We know there's serious divisions within the ANC itself. We know there's a huge amount of support still for former President Zuma, for the former mayor of Durban. There's a lot of very dissatisfied people complaining about the ANC's failure to act on it. So, when Zandile Gomeri, the suspended mayor facing corruption charges, was mayor, she put people strategically, most of the management people in Durban up in Durban. Now, the potential for destabilization if people want to take their grievances from the party to politics is very big. I don't know how you deal with it. We need to obviously do something about crime intelligence. As I said, there are good people there, but what can you do if you are let down by your colleagues? So we do need to look at security issues, but we also need to hold the whole provincial management here accountable. I deal with problems that have nothing to do with this. People are living in fear. Taxis are taking over, driving buses out of place. There's a culture of anarchy here. And that's what we need to address, because political violence is part of this bigger problem. And I am concerned about the potential for destabilization in a number of areas, starting with eThekwini, because it is a crucial base for the ANC in terms of support at national conferences. But it is divided. The new speaker is in the other camp, in the Ramaphosa camp. We don't know what's happening with the elections, but I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. All I know is that the potential is there, and we've got to find ways of making sure that the destabilization doesn't happen.
Mary, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really, really do appreciate your analysis. Mary De Haas, Violence Monitor and Analyst. All right, let's